Every time somebody asks me how to make something, I go, well, let's make a video. Bacon braised Brussels sprouts. This is keto, of course. I've already started. Super easy. Get, however, a bag of Brussels sprouts, maybe a pound. I don't know how much comes in a bag, but they're all about the same. Half a red onion. You can use white onion. I prefer the red for this. This was a really dense red onion, and so I used more like a third of it instead of a half. The bacon, just grab maybe 6 strips, I'm not really sure, but I grab it like a chunk, and then I'll take some scissors and I'll cut it into these like smaller kind of bite size. The idea with the bacon is, for the bacon braised Brussels sprouts, is you're gonna par cook the bacon, and then you're gonna pull it out because it will burn long before the Brussels sprouts will be ready. So I've already started doing that. I cut it and lay it all out, and then I turn, something's doubled up, and then I turn it on about 4, so what is that, medium low, and I let it cook on one side. So while it's doing that, what else do we have? You can use water. I just happen to have some extra stock in the refrigerator. Vegetables, broth, you can use chicken, just anything that'll add flavor to it. Sometimes I usually use water, but if I have stock, even better, even better. You can use the thick bacon. I have found that I prefer to use the thinner for some reason. I like it a little crispier in this. Normally I like my bacon kind of on the softer side, but for this, it adds a texture to it. So the thinner it is, the easier it is to crisp. May or may not need olive oil. It actually depends on how much fat renders from the bacon. Thank you. So you're not going to throw the bacon, rendered bacon fat out. Thank you. I like to add a little bit of onion powder, a little bit of garlic powder. I have a little bit of garlic salt. I have regular salt, not sure. Sometimes I just get going and whatever goes in, goes in. Cracked pepper. With the pepper, I put it in later because I learned, probably on the food channel somewhere, that with pepper, the caseins will actually burn and make a bitter flavor. So if you add the pepper in early, it'll overcook the pepper, just kind of like the bacon. You're not cooking pepper per se, unless it's in something wet like a stew or something. But when it's applied to high heat like this, it'll affect it. So I don't know if I ever noticed that until somebody said something. I also have, you can make this spicy if you want. It's kind of optional. I happen to have a little bit of a dehydrated habanero. That's all it is. Collect your habaneros if you grow habanero or any kind of pepper plant that's spicy. Collect them, put them in the freezer, and then when you have a big batch, if you have a dehydrator, and a lot of these air fryers have a dehydrating option on it, take them and cut the stems off and smash them and then dehydrate them till they're dry, and then grind them up in a grinder. Like I have a spice grinder that was probably created for coffee, but it didn't end up that way. So just plain, and this is really intense, so be careful. Alexa, stop the timer. This takes about 20 minutes. So this is still doing its thing. Later at the end, Parmesan cheese. So the process for this while it's doing its thing is par cook the bacon. Oh, garlic. I'm lazy. Don't make fun of me. Don't judge me. I have the minced garlic. I don't really like the garlic smell on my fingers. I mean, it makes all the difference, I think, probably. But then again, with all this stuff, are you really gonna notice? You're gonna, wow, she's gonna use fresh garlic, but it's up to you. So, bacon, we're gonna speed it up a little bit. Par cooked. And then the onion until translucent, maybe about two minutes or so. And the way I did the Brussels sprouts, I cut the ends off. Bear with that. I cut the ends off. Hey, no. Leave it in the sink. Thank you, though. We have accumulated a lot of dishes tonight making these videos and other things, so if we can watch them in real time, that would be good. But so you can leave them, so cut the bottom off. And these were really, really dense. In fact, this one got missed. These were really dense, and so what I did was I cut them in quarters. It's gonna be bad. Cut them in quarters. If they're not quite so dense, you can leave them in halves. I wouldn't leave them as wholes because they won't cook through. It just, I guess it depends. I would suggest just starting out with quarters and halves, and then as you become proficient or start to experiment with the dish and decide to add and incorporate other things or not do certain things, then you'll come to what you like. Pretty versatile. I've added mushrooms to this before. So here's the thing, the catch with this dish is the idea is not to burn the Brussels sprouts. And that's what the vegetable broth is for. We're gonna deglaze it with wine at some point. I have done this without doing so. I always try to not cook with alcohol if I can possibly help it, but sometimes the dimension that it brings is kind of quintessential to the dish. So the more moisture in here, the less likely it's going to burn. It's starting to come, starting to get there. I love this thing. I think it's really for frying, but I forget what it's called. A spider whisk or another thing I really like, Le Creuset and some of the other companies make these spatulas, and they're high heat silicone, so you can literally like leave it in there and it's not going to melt in your food. Unlike probably this guy or the one that went on the floor. I like this one because this bacon doesn't always cook at the same rate. I mean, it's not always all ready to come out at the same time. So sometimes I'll pick out the ones. For the sake of editing, we will come back when this is done. All right, so it doesn't seem to render a whole lot, right? The thinner it is, this all actually was done at the same time. It's par cooked, it's probably all the way cooked. And just use the same pan. To me, I may not use it all. I mean, how much do you like onion? Do you want to use all the onion? You can. I don't have the garlic at this time. I added a little later because garlic burns. I will add the garlic actually a little after the Brussels sprouts. So there's wine going in there. There's vegetable stock going in there. There's going to be liquid that's going to be trapped, and it's going to, it will cook down the garlic well enough if you add it later. Just think, garlic and pepper later. I'm going to need it. to me, I use three pans, but I'm keeping the other 75 just in case. Yep, it's about right. So this did not take, it's already getting translucent. Red onion has just a nuttier quality to it. I just appreciate it more for this dish. The Brussels sprouts, they complement each other because they're kind of nutty as well. So I haven't seasoned anything yet. We have turned up the heat to 6, medium high. All right, that's about what that looks like. And we can put in the sprouts. So these bacon braised Brussels sprouts, okay? Yeah, I hate Brussels sprouts because my mother, everyone had, if you're a product of the 80s in particular, your mom ruined, unless you're me, who's a total weirdo and liked it, your mom may have likely ruined Brussels sprouts for you because they can be really bitter, especially if all you do is steam them and then salt and pepper. It's just not what a lot of people like. And my Brussels sprouts, this dish has converted haters into lovers. I had a friend that didn't eat vegetables at all. One of his ongoing, it was tongue-in-cheek, I guess. I mean, there was some joking nature to it, but he was pretty serious. The only thing green that he ate was the green on his pastrami, okay? So he's a meat guy, and he would always eat the meat on his dish first, and then if there was a vegetable, whatever he had room for, felt like he would eat later. Well, granted, there's meat in the bacon braised Brussels sprouts, but he would eat my sprouts first, and then the meat second. So, what does that tell you? We can start seasoning now. I have found that there's different, I like to season a little bit now, and then when it softens up and I add the stock, season then as well. So I'm probably gonna do the garlic salt first. Depending on who you ask, there's some discrepancies to the garlic salt because if you look in the back, oh yes, oh God, I shouldn't have looked. If you're eating keto, there's all this BS junk that is in there. I think there's sugar on the list. There's modified cornstarch on the list. Yeah, I'm kind of dirty keto sometimes. Dirty just means, not clean. I'm still eating low carb, but I will eat certain things that'll affect my macros just a little. But if my macros are in point, then I can still have it. Maltodextrin and dextrose, you want to avoid those things too. Just big fancy words for glucose. Garlic powder. Man, I should throw that out. Of course, I just bought a new one. It may seem like a lot. This is going to cook in. There have been times where I taste it later and it just didn't taste like I seasoned it at all. Turn this up. But here's what I'm doing. I want to trap the heat. I want to brown the edges before. I want the Maillard effect. The Maillard effect is the caramelization of certain things that comes out when you're not steaming, but when you're actually browning something. It happens in sourdough bread. It happens in meats when you brown your meats before you put them in the crock pot. It's just the browning effect, and I like to have the Maillard effect happen before I add any of my broths, anything like that. Which is, I do risk kind of burning them, which is why I don't like to put the garlic in at this time. I don't have any, but also really good for this dish is there's tube garlic that is it's like mushy garlic. I mean, it's just soft ground up or I don't know. What do you call it? Tube garlic. It comes out like a paste, garlic paste. There we go. And it's wonderful for this. It actually thickens. It almost makes, roux is not the right word, but if you've ever made a roux for anything, which is adding flour to the liquid in a dish, it thickens it up and it makes it kind of creamy. That garlic will do that. The garlic tube, a little pricey, but it's fantastic. When I do that, I do it at the end. We're kind of getting there. We're starting to see some Maillard effect on some of these. Kind of jumping. I think right now my instinct is telling me to add the garlic. I'll add it off kind of to the side so that, oh, that's a lot. It's gonna be good though. If I put it off to the side, it'll give it an opportunity to still kind of cook without having to compete for the pan. Or if you've ever heard, I think Julia Childs would say, don't crowd the mushrooms. You want the mushrooms to all have their little space so that they'll cook evenly. Mushrooms are interesting. You can brown mushrooms, but you can also cook mushrooms on a certain heat in a way that they will release their water, and because they hold on to a lot of water, they're like little sponges, and it's kind of a trick to get them to brown without them releasing their water, usually higher heat. But keep in mind with mushrooms that you're going to add like liquid to whatever you're doing because of the amount of water that they have, which is a little bit surprising because if you've ever touched a mushroom, they feel very dry. Garlic does not take that long. Oh, that wasn't that much. I don't see any threat of burning yet. So I like to deglaze when I think that it's starting to dry up. This way I don't have to add any more oil or fat. If you are on the ketogenic diet, which is a high fat diet, that's not really a concern, but for some people it is. If you have cardiac stents, I guess you gotta watch it. But even that might be a myth. We're not really worried about dietary fat. We're worried about the cholesterol that's made in our liver independent of whether we eat. High density and low density lipoproteins, which aren't even cholesterol at all. All right. Ooh. This is a good time to deglaze. I've got just some cheap box white wine here. And when you apply heat to it, yeah, perfect, half cup. When you apply heat to it like this, it breaks down the alcohol and cooks it out. So that way they're not drunken bacon braised Brussels sprouts. This would also be a good time to spice more. Let's put the hot sauce in, or the hot sauce. I'm gonna regret this. Ooh. It doesn't come out easily. Oh yeah. So that may have seemed like a lot, but it really wasn't. Oh, that's probably plenty salty. I think we're good on that stuff. This goes at the very, very end. Parmesan cheese, more laziness for me. If you look at all shredded cheese, Every single one. There's not a single one that isn't this way. The powdered or the shredded cheese has been sprayed with, in this case, cellulose. I've seen potato starch. I've seen all these things. So if you're diabetic and you're wondering why your blood sugar is spiking, start looking at your ingredients. Look at your cheese. Grate your own cheese. I really don't like what happens to grated Parmesan cheese in this dish. It kind of hardens it, whereas the powdered, I use this for this because the powdered just does, the consistency is different. I may not have to put vegetable broth in this at all. It's just got enough liquid, it's trapping it in. Sometimes it doesn't. So as you can see, it's a lot of just, you can make changes easily to this. I guess that means you can also mess it up really easily, but probably not if you know a little bit about what you're doing. Not right. All right, well, while this does its thing, come back. Okay. Actually, while I paused this to let this cook for a while, it got kind of dry, so I had to add a little bit of stock. If you overstock it, just leave the top off and it'll cook out. These are super dense. They are taking a while. I even cranked up the heat. If you like them really crunchy, then cool, you can do that. Let's go ahead and apply. By the way, if you don't crack your own pepper, I won't be mad at you because guess who uses the fridge garlic? Me. But I don't know if it's capsaicin or the casein or there's these little, Food Channel, peppercorns have an outside layer that has this oil. And when you crack it, the oil incorporates into the rest of the peppercorn. And it actually doesn't take long for all of that to break down and to lose freshness, to lose flavor, lose a lot of its structure. And so they suggest to crack it in real time. And you may not know, but olive oil is a perishable item as well. And if you don't cook with it very often, they suggest, and this is a huge pain in the neck, they suggest that you put it in the refrigerator. The problem with that is it congeals in the cold. And so if you don't anticipate using your olive oil ahead of time, then it's not going to pour. So there's a little bit of planning involved in that. These guys, I think, You ready?
Very good.
Could it go longer or?
A little longer, I think.
Okay. So I thought it was really salty. It has actually calmed down quite a bit. At this phase, I would add the tube garlic. While it still has a little bit of liquid, it just makes it really creamy. At this point, The onion has caramelized. The garlic has cooked down but hasn't burned. I'm afraid I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna go ahead and put the parm, because the parm can soak up some of the liquid. I'm telling you, if this was shredded parm, it would be like, it would turn into, I don't know, a brick. It just wouldn't, it wouldn't be right. I've done it and I didn't like it. It hardened. You can actually use Parmesan to make like cheese tortillas, or you can, anybody that's ever taken Parmesan cheese and put it in a pan knows that it all gets hard and cooks together. So maybe there's something to the cellulose. I don't know. We're probably about there. We're just gonna go for it. Yep. I could actually be salted a little more, but when you don't want to salt it because it's too late, add more cheese. What's that other meme about how like grated the cheese and there was no survivors? We kept grating. All right. Go on a white plate to have a look at it. Oh. Bacon braised Brussels sprouts. You can add more cheese at this point. Have no more survivors. And then you can eat all the Brussels sprouts yourselves. Give her a shot. Let me know how it worked out.